Tony, are we good to go? Okay. Good morning. This is the meeting of the Capital Outlay Committee. It is October 22nd, and we are going to open the meeting now. And we just had another, thank you, good to see you. We now have 5. Membership is 5. Okay. First order of business is to approve the meeting minutes from September 17th. Has everyone gotten those?
Yep.
Any comments, changes?
I have one comment.
Okay, yes, Michelle.
I just noted that my first name is misspelled, so if you could just note that for the record.
Yes. Okay, I will take attendance. Thank you for Michelle for that. And can you tell me what the correct spelling is, just so that...
Yes, my first name is Michelle, M-I-C-H-E-L-E, 1 L.
1 E.
1 L.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, you want to do attendance? We should do attendance. Okay, attending today's meeting is Ann Tucker, and I am standing in, substituting for Martha Donovan, who's the chair, who is out not feeling well today.
Rich Larius. Scott Norm.
Paul Doan.
Anthony Schiavi.
And Michelle Galucci.
Great. Okay, I open this meeting, call us to order, and we have approved the minutes from September 17th with the change to Michelle's spelling of her name. Any other comments?
No, I move to approve the minutes.
I second.
All in favor? Oh, no, we have to do a roll call because we have one off. So Paul?
Aye.
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 Ann Tucker, aye. Okay, minutes are approved. Okay.
I didn't vote, so I'm saying aye, too.
Oh, thank you, Michelle.
I know, it's easy to forget me, yeah.
Under new business, item A, discussion and update on the Capital Outlay Committee role as outlined in section 9 of the charter. We're going to table that today as Martha has most of our changes and revision. Paul, any comment?
No, Martha appeared before the Charter Commission and explained and went through the whole process that we went through and explains our thinking behind the changes. So I think it's all in the Charter Commission's pocket now.
Okay, so there's no real action on our part, do you think,
No,
for
I don't
that?
believe so. I think it's just informational purposes.
Okay. Why don't we leave it open that Martha will update all the rest of us the next
She
meeting?
can say what I don't want to put words in her mouth.
She asked us not to do anything more on that today,
Right.
because she couldn't attend.
Postpone it till the next session.
Okay. Item A, under new business, we'll postpone to our next meeting. That meeting is yet to be scheduled, so we'll do that at the end. Okay. Moving on. Item B. Tony, that's you. You're going to present the 5-year capital A plan, just the thinking and everything behind it, correct?
Yes.
And I just will note, before we adjourn today, one of our main tasks, Tony will to lay out the next meetings and which department heads will appear when.
Okay.
Is that fair?
I think so. Part for me is just understanding the process you've used in the past and who's driving the, the different aspects of the agenda. So if the town administrator typically is the one setting up when you see each of the departments, then we can, go through that. I'm happy to do that, so.
And the reason we've done that in the past is we want to be respectful of all of the manager's time. That's why we do it during the day, not at night.
Okay.
When it may be sometimes more convenient for other people. And we want to leave it to you, since these people work for you, about what makes the most sense in terms of order, rather than us saying, police and fire here, whatever else.
Right.
You know what's of priority. Is that all right, gentlemen?
Yes.
The asterisk is what makes sense in terms of time, Tony. If we could put 2 or 3 departments at one time, that works fine, considering you may have a large one like DPW,
That's going to take time.
that'll take time versus the library versus community center.
Yeah, typically I would group the smaller, ones together that are fairly simplistic in terms of what their asks are over the course of the, 5 years. Facilities, DPW, harbor are some of the ones that have a little bit more extensive requests to, complicated projects. So I would probably do those separately. So right now, our timeline for, starting today, October 22nd, this process runs through 10 December. So that we're prepared to have everything finalized, ready to present to the select board in the first meeting in January. So I'll kind of lay out a,
So just to add, usually we're done and we're meeting with the select board in December.
yes, we're moving that to that first meeting in January.
Any reason?
Better flow, making sure we actually have everything fully baked and ready to go. Part of the issue right now, particularly with me coming in and new staff, is making sure that we actually have everything fully fleshed out, all the rationale built, and not rushed to a particular date, and making sure we have enough time. I think what we found in the past, or at least what I've heard, over the course of budget development and all of that, is they want it earlier, but not necessarily to rush. So just from my perspective, part of what I have to deal with is just getting the background on a lot of stuff, asking probably more questions than normal, because this is the first time I'm looking at it. So I just want to make sure that we have everything fully flushed out, all the questions asked and answered, both from myself and from the committee. So I've spoken to the chair, so we're looking at trying to do that. If we get earlier, we might be able to do it earlier, but
But historically, for some reason, we had to be finished in December.
Because of the charter,
because of the charter,
Right.
yes.
and we're advancing past that, put it that way.
Yeah, right now, what it says is, it just says the month of December. So, I think with everything going on, the chair is fine with not letting the charter push us into a square corner at this point, given obviously the changes in administration and all of that. So we'll work that out.
So just housekeeping then. So then our joint meeting with finance is in January as well?
Well, if that's a separate thing, that you meet just with the finance committee, I'm talking about my rule and where it gets before the select
Finance
board.
and the Board of Selectmen.
Selectmen, okay,
It's
sorry, it's
both.
fine. It's,
I think
that's
with the holes in management, we
okay,
just, before the meeting started, there are decisions that have to be made by certain heads of departments, and they're not here.
got
And
it.
also, Tony is also dealing with some novices that we need to make sure that 100%.
So here's what's in the charter, because I have it on my
Right.
timeline. I don't know if you've all seen the timeline I built. It's on the website. Under the select board, you can see every activity that we have to accomplish between now and town meeting, in terms of all the different milestones, the dates that we're working towards. So, and what you're referencing right now is it talks to, just give me 1 second to find it again. Okay, town administrator, capital outlay committee present the capital plan and the budget to the select board and finance committee. All it says is during the month of December. Right now, the way we have the timeline built is we'll do that on the 5th of January. So, I mean, for all intents and purposes, it's, call it 2 weeks, right? Maybe later than what it was normally done. And again, it's to make sure that we actually have the best product to present and not.
I'm fully supportive.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, going against the charter, is there anything we have to do to,
Maybe could we get the time? I don't know that I've seen the timeline.
It's on the website.
can you send a link? Because if it's on the website, sometimes it is impossible to find.
Oh, that's why I was saying where to find it, but I can send a link. That's
Send a
fine.
link.
if you do go on the website, you look under Select Board, right on the left, it'll say, Annual Town Meeting 2026.
Okay.
I'm putting all the budget information, so the Select Board's budget message is there, which has capital stuff referenced in it. The timeline that I have built, that I update the board on at every meeting, is up there. And so I'll continue to populate information in that, financial information, capital information, budget information, for anyone, including the public, that wishes to look at it.
Well, that's great. It's wonderful for transparency. It's just a matter of, sometimes those get buried in kind of cascading folders down, so I'm
Yeah, they're just
finding-
listed as links.
Okay.
It's
So
under
they're-
Annual Town Meeting, May 4th, 2026, on the Select Board website.
Correct.
It's very easy.
Okay. Let's keep it
Part of my
there.
transparency pledge.
Okay. So we don't think we have to do anything by, from the charter perspective?
No,
to
I've
get it
talked to
done
the
in
chair,
January?
it's really the Select Board's call. And again, I just in general, and I've talked to the Charter Commission a little bit, I know they're working on a lot of these type of things. Sometimes when you start putting in these hard deadlines like that, they don't always make sense in terms of
I'm
making
fully,
sure.
I'm fully supportive. It's just a matter of we're
Understand.
working on the charter. We don't have a revision, and what's our obligation to follow the charter until we do have a revision. If you're comfortable with, we can do it in January, let's do it in January and have a better product.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right, take us where you are.
Okay.
And we'll go from there.
All right, so what I've tried to do in listening to some of the feedback from different areas in terms of how the capital, five-year capital plan has been presented and some of the information and the way it was presented, I came up with a little bit different format, again, in hopes of making it a little bit more detailed. So there's three components to it. One is the capital improvement plan, which is the five-year plan, which will encompass FY '27 to '31. I put out a call back in August for all the various departments to submit their capital requests. It does not include any items that are less than 50,000, which was one of the things that I had heard feedback on, since it doesn't meet the definition for this particular plan, so you won't see those on there. The other thing that I've done with the departments, particularly in DPW, where they would just have a line item saying replacement vehicles for, 800,000, is to actually break it out so that we identify in the capital plan the vehicles or machinery that we're actually looking to replace in the year we're looking to replace those in. So again, that it provides that information.
A question just as we do this.
Sure.
The plan that we had last year, is this reflected in it? So, or is this new? Right, we used to try to figure out what's different from the five-year look last year.
Yeah, in my initial review, going through it, I would say that probably any items that are probably new. Now, that's not to say items may not have shifted years as more information became available, but typically, I think in the harbor area, there's been some changes, only because, we have a new harbor master now that's obviously taken a fresh look. I did not asterisk things that were not on the previous five-year plan, but I can certainly do that if it's helpful in terms of what's being proposed that may have not have been in the last five-year plan.
Let me just ask before we move on, do you guys want to see what we approved last year as compared to this year, or do you don't care? You want to just start from where we are?
I'd start from where we are. I went through and made a list of all the changes myself, just looking at the five-year plan from last year's annual town meeting versus what was distributed recently. And like Tony said, the changes are not that significant. I have some questions when we get to those departments about the new items that I see, but
Okay.
I don't think we need a formal crosswalk.
Paul?
I'm fine with going what we've got here, but I just was hoping to maybe get a little definition on these items to the right here, so I could understand what the enterprise fund is and what
The sources.
included debt is and so forth.
Yeah,
I thought this was great, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, Paul, we'll get to that as one of the sub-areas, I'll call it. So that's how the plan was built. Now, has everybody had a chance to review the Select Board's budget message?
No.
Okay, so I would encourage you to take a look at that. It's in what was just mentioned in the Select Board site. The reason I say that is the board has given some specific direction related to capital, and how we're approaching capital, and what they have asked the departments and myself to focus on as it relates to capital. Now, I don't think at this point it drove major changes, as was just mentioned. But again, it's important to understand the Select Board's intent in terms of how they describe capital, and I'll mention it in terms of, some of it's in terms of prior approvals. The boards, we have stuff on there that is 5 years old, 6 years old, that has not even been initiated. And so when I met with the department heads on Monday to talk about budget development, I also talked about capital and asked them to go back and review every project that's been approved in the past and determine whether that project, if it hasn't been initiated, is even still a viable project to complete, because they haven't started it yet. Now, that falls into two categories. One is it's still needed, and two is if it hasn't been initiated and a significant amount of time has gone by, it's very possible that there's not enough money there. If they used a cost estimate for that time they went to town meeting and 4 or 5 years have passed, it's very possible that now they don't have enough money to even complete it. So
the cleanup piece is, do you need it, and has it aged out?
correct.
Okay.
Now, part of the reason for that is we're expecting, now we closed the books on 9/30. We've submitted our free cash certification. We're hoping to get it back in October, but we kind of fall in what I'll call the third tier with DOR. So first tier is towns that are doing fall town meetings, because a lot of towns spend their free cash in the fall, so they're kind of priority one to get certified. Towns that are in the tax recap process come second, and we're sort of in the third tier. So we're kind of reaching out to them every day, everything going good, do you need anything from us? Again, hoping that we get an early certification of our free cash. But our initial look is that we're probably looking at a free cash number that's lower than what we've seen in prior years. So that will have to get factored into essentially how much money do we actually have, and how much of it do we want to spend on capital versus some of the other uses of free cash.
So traditionally, we haven't gotten free cash till between January and March.
That's what it's been.
I'm an early adopter, Ann.
A good
yeah,
tradition.
Yeah,
After it's certified.
Certified.
yes, and we're trying to get that. That's why we submitted when we did.
Okay.
Yeah, and when you submit in September or early October, you're kind of in the top-tier benchmark community to do that. And they've actually seen more communities not meet that have in the past. So it was good on Harwich that we actually submitted when we did.
Okay.
Tony, these forms, okay, they're totally different from what we've used in the past, and their title's different than what we've used in the past. The more intricate ones, where there's a breakdown in terms of planning infrastructure, something called the capital improvement budget, and capital improvement budget goes back to, if it's a budget year, it's 2027. I understand that.
Correct.
So these two intricate ones deal with how and when and where are you going to have the 27 numbers met. The one that's called capital improvement plan used to be the capital outlay plan, and now it's the improvement plan.
I mean, I can go back to that title.
No. We
if
changed it even in our language, but go ahead.
You change it,
Yeah.
all I'm saying, it used to be called something else,
Sure.
okay? Are we going to be looking at today, so that we don't get really, I'm confused. But there's the 27 look, here's the 720, all your 27 requests are in?
Except for, actually, maybe what might be more helpful, let me go through one at a time, and I'll tell you how they were built and what's missing.
Okay, one question
Yes.
before you do that. What is the difference between a column called estimated total cost and 27? Is that part of the estimated total cost?
So the estimated total cost is the 5-year total. So if you look at police
see.
vehicles, for instance, they order vehicles every year.
Okay, instead of having the estimated total cost on the right-hand side,
I have it on the left.
you have it as the first column.
Got it.
Got it. Okay, so, yeah, that's,
Yeah, take us through your thinking on the process for these,
Sure.
so we can keep up with you, with the intention that we're looking at something that has money in all of 5 years. We're kind of looking at it as one. What's that total look?
Yep.
Is that correct?
Yes, correct. So the estimated total cost for each line item is...
Yeah, where would you like us to start?
the big paper.
There are lots of big papers. This one?
That's
Is
Yeah,
this
so
only-
start with the one that's 3 pages long, called the capital improvement plan.
I got it. Okay, thank
So-
you.
That's the main plan. It covers FY '27 to '31. Each of the departments were asked to fill out their capital forms as they've done in the past and identify what's needed, the fiscal year of their request, and I basically took that and populated this spreadsheet with the information each of the departments provided. So under the left, I'll say, just to draw your attention, so the Monomoy Regional School District, I just got their capital plan, but I need to actually meet with them to make sure I understand how, not the elementary school where the town sort of each town owns their elementary school, but for some of the other projects, how they figure out the cost. In other words, what's the impact of, to Harwich of some of those capital projects for the school. So that still needs to get populated in here once I actually understand how the school does their capital planning and how that affects each of the member towns in terms of, their share.
And we haven't had that before, correct?
Not for the district, no.
Not for the
We
district.
haven't met with them before to go over it.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, and there's quite a few things on there, and I'm just getting an understanding of how, whether, some of their projects they borrow for, and then how does that, affect the town in terms of, cost of that project. Other stuff are smaller that aren't paid with a borrowing, and so how do we figure out what Harwich's share of that might be for each of the years, and then I need to factor that in there. So it's the first time I've looked at a regional school before, so I need to meet with them to make sure that, so I would expect we'll see the schools later in this process, once I'm able to do that, in terms of bringing them in to talk to you all.
I think it might be a good idea to move the district down below the town, because last year, and I think in prior years, the capital outlay plan, which was Appendix A or B of the warrant, had elementary school as a category right within the town departments. But if we're going to add the district, it should be after
The elementary school?
all of the town departments. So we have a subtotal for the town that's going to be the Appendix B or A
Oh, for the warrant? For the warrant.
for the warrant.
Okay.
Appendix C, I'm sorry, yeah.
So would you still want to see where I have Monomoy Regional School District, do you want me to put list the elementary school up
That would be
above?
parallel to prior years, yeah, that would be
Okay,
good.
all right, and then the school district,
Down below
Below.
the town subtotal.
all right.
Yeah.
Okay. Because we'll talk about that when we get to the end. So anyway, so each of those departments, and you'll see, I've added a little more information in, like, for instance, take a look at the fire department, right? One of the things I asked them was not just replace ambulance, but I asked them to say, okay, what ambulance you're replacing, what year is it? And identify the make and model of the ambulance that we're actually replacing, again, as an effort to provide a little more information than just saying ambulance replacement. So you'll see things of that nature listed out specifically. Same for the engine, their command vehicle, right? They're replacing a 2016 Explorer.
Chair, Madam Chair, one question.
Oh, Al,
Recommend Bob?
I just want to clarify, maybe you touched on this and I missed it, but we're now calling this the capital improvement?
Well, let me go back. I mean, that's what I had, so some of this I built, so I need to go back. If the town of Harwich in the charter calls it the capital outlay plan, I'm going to change it to the capital outlay plan so that it's not confusing and it comports with whatever's in the charter. And it sounds like it's the capital outlay plan, so I'll change that.
I'm fine with that.
well, I'm happy for it.
Yeah.
Right, we'd have to deal with the charter, because if we're going to start calling it the improvement, that was all.
Yeah, is it in the, yeah, just line all these things up whether they're the same, right?
I think we keep capital outlay plan with all of the changes that have.
Just
been
so it's
suggested.
consistent and, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to create questions for sort of my administrative,
Yeah, the
We
improvement,
say, well, wait, where's the
We-
capital outlay?
right.
because we haven't done the, we haven't used improvement as a word in the past. Okay, that just helps keep us sane,
Yeah.
that's all.
All
So,
right, so that's kind of how I laid out, vehicles, and you'll see each department's listed individually. You'll see that the DPW section has expanded a lot, because you would just have a line saying vehicle replacements without really any detail. So you'll see each of those is broken out with a specific piece of machinery or a truck that's being replaced, and the cost of those individually, so they're not lumped together.
and then just this is my memory, so it looks like the biggest changes are in the DPW lines, is that correct?
Well, the fact that they're listed individually is the main difference. I don't think the totals are all that different.
Okay,
I think they're pretty close to the same.
are they pretty
That's
close to the
last-
same?
yeah.
Okay, thank you, okay.
But it would be nice to see the years of the DPW vehicles as well, if it's not too much trouble.
No, it's not. It's just I'm
Yeah,
like I say, trying to pull information, but we can continue to update this, because I like to see the year on there.
Yeah.
And when they come before you, they may have, mileage on, for some vehicles, they
They
may have
usually-
number of engine hours, we'll see how much,
They've done that in the past,
Yeah.
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 Okay,
Okay?
keep going, yep.
One of the changes I'll mention under the harbor master, we're putting dredging back in the capital plan where it belongs. It doesn't belong in the operating budget. It's not an operating expense. It's an infrastructure type of expense, and should be in the capital plan, not in the operating budget. So is one of the changes from what folks may have seen last year. And it used to be there, they change back and forth, but if you look at the definitions, in towns that do dredging, it's always in the capital.
At least we don't borrow for it.
Ask a question.
Yep, yes, Michelle, recognize Michelle, yes.
So, to your point, Tony, about the dredging, so is it safe to say that the items that come onto the capital outlay plan will eventually be depreciated?
Well, dredging doesn't depreciate,
Can't
that's more of
depreciate.
a,
Right, that's my question. So I look at dredging and I think, well, I do see it as an operating expense, and I was just curious to know, this is probably just a lack of my experience. So not everything on the capital outlay plan would be something that would be depreciated.
correct, and again, it could be the difference between, sort of the municipal way of, like I said, every, town that I search for that, lives on the shoreline that does dredging, it's always in the capital plan, and when you look at the definition of how they determine that, it's really where it belongs, not in the operating budget.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
It's in
It's
the-
kind of like road maintenance. We pave roads, but we don't depreciate roads like we do with equipment and vehicles and things like that.
Correct. Thank you for that clarification.
No, you're welcome.
Okay, so that's a change at the, right
The
there at the harbor.
Yeah, you're right.
Vehicle replacement, okay, anything else you want to point out to us?
Let's see,
in terms of the-
facilities, I think, was always included in DPW. I broke it out. It's not technically a separate department, but it is really a kind of a separate area. So I have facilities broken out as a separate grouping from DPW, so it's not all sort of mixed in, and kind of, I think, draws your attention to some of the facilities activity that's going on.
And that's where you put the replacement number, right, of the 9.277?
That's correct. Yep, the 9.177 million, correct. And that was a change from 27 to 28.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Last year, and I think in previous years, the road maintenance of 700,000, which, by the way, is unchanged, the amount, was funded with free cash.
Mm-hmm.
And this year, it's funded with excluded debt.
Potentially. We're,
Yeah.
like I say, we're looking at the funding sources.
Not doing the
If you,
funding
and also, let me talk about that when I get to the funding page
Okay.
of some of the things we're having to look at if we want to keep things moving. from a capital, perspective. Obviously, a lot of folks weigh in on a decision, like that. So these are more recommendations.
So that's a good explanation about the harbor, adding the dredging, and then facilities maintenance is where we've moved the replacement of the DPW. Anything else you want to call to our attention right now,
On
Tony?
facilities, no.
Or just in general, as we go forward?
No. You can see we expanded out water, water, wastewater projects, same as everywhere else. So we have a subtotal for town and schools. So based on the input we just got, I'll break that out. It'll be, I'll say, town and elementary school. We'll have a subtotal for the enterprise funds, and then we can create a subtotal for the district for capital projects and costs that are.
I think
Well, that's funding.
town, including elementary school, enterprise, and then district would be the good
Correct.
sequence. And the elementary school, when we borrow for repairs at the elementary school, it is directly from the town, it doesn't go through the district at all, do you know?
No,
Or
because
does it go through the district?
Well, they manage it. I mean, there was an article on the town meeting warrant to borrow whatever the cost was. I don't recall what that was. But when they borrow money for, let's say they're gonna do something at the Monomoy Middle School, and there's some projects I saw, and they're coming up for the Monomoy Middle School. So let's say the school district goes out and borrows funds, and obviously the town and both towns vote on that and whatever, they borrow the funds, but the way that gets charged back to us, from what I read from Mr. McMillan's email, included, is it's included in our assessment in terms of how much
The debt service.
the debt service for that project flows through in the assessment versus how we do our own.
But is that true of the elementary school?
I don't know.
it's all ours.
I know it's
It is all
ours
ours, but I don't know how the debt flows. Like, will it come through the assessment, or is it gonna be, sort of like our other?
So it's in our regular debt service?
Yes.
I would
line
think.
On the operating budget?
Yeah, I would think so.
Okay, so any questions on how this one's laid out right now in terms of where we
I
are?
just, in terms of layout, I know Tony has this first column estimated total.
You want me to move it to the other side?
I do, because if this is the one that's going to be printed,
Yeah,
people are going to look and say, holy shit, it's 4.5 million.
right.
And then you say, well,
The
what hap-
discussion almost stops.
it does when you see that number.
Yeah. I can do that.
I agree with that recommendation.
To the,
Total to the
right.
end. Yep.
To the right.
To the right.
I should
Okay.
probably, as a mathematician, I should probably figure that out on my own, but.
That's okay. So
you for-
should we spend time now on the new form where we have the funding sources, gentlemen?
It's up to Tony.
That's where
Yeah.
Tony wants.
Yep.
So the second, let me just talk about the second real quick, and this kind of helps, I think, just everybody understand how much we're spending on infrastructure, transportation, technology improvements, and equipment. The second one really is just an expenditure category type of a chart, and again, it's, I think, just gives us an idea of where the money falls in terms of the different categories of capital expenditures. I'll say broadly speaking, it's not really an actionable thing, but again, it's more for visibility and transparency to see, of all the money that we're spending, where is it, how much are we spending on our infrastructure versus transportation and technology and.
Can you explain this column called planning then?
Yeah, so planning, for instance, if you look at Department of Natural Resources, one of our, let's say, severely degraded bodies of water has to do with the West Reservoir. So that's a diagnostic assessment, right? So that's a planning item that may potentially lead to a capital project at some point if whatever that study reveals, saying, hey, in order to improve it, you got to do X, Y, and Z. Same thing for DPW. That planning figure there is really to develop cost estimates, basic design, so that when it's time to go to town meeting to ask for the big nut, if you will, to actually go to construction, town meeting actually has something to review to say, okay, we understand what you're building, we have some basic renderings and some construction cost estimates to back that up. What I've seen in the past, if you just go right to town meeting and say, I want 9.177 million, and you don't have all your homework done, you know, you
So
could...
that's for all the engineering stuff and everything
Well,
else?
yeah, it's not the
correct?
full, what you might
Not
see
the
in terms
full?
of the full engineering, because that's typically up to 10% of an overall project, right? So
Okay.
this is to get our initial planning estimates in order to be able to go to town meeting. And then the completed design would be baked into the construction number for final design and that sort of thing. So that's the kind of stuff you would see in the planning column.
Okay, because the planning column is new this year, correct? I'm just going down it myself.
Well, the whole sheet is brand new.
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to make sure if we understand it so that we can then communicate it. Okay, so planning is all that pre-work almost before the engineering, correct?
Yep.
Then, okay, take us through the infrastructure.
So again, infrastructure, you can see by the items I put in there. So infrastructure are things like road maintenance, the dredge or harbing, the
And you put the
Harbor.
dredging, the 500 for dredging, yeah.
boat ramp replacement, right, those are infrastructure, roof replacements. Okay,
Got it.
Those are infrastructure, a new well and treatment plant, those are infrastructure. Transportation, obviously, are vehicles and machinery. Well, not necessarily machinery, but vehicles, technology, or what you'd expect, so we have IT upgrades and such. And then equipment are things like the defibrillators, the demo trailer for the transfer station, right? Those type of things are considered equipment.
Are we
communities.
missing any,
Where's the transfer, I'm sorry, help me out with the transfer station, under which line is that?
So that's under DPW, that last line, construction and demo trailer. So those are the trailers they load the construction and demo debris into. So that's more of an equipment item, so it's a trailer, not an actual vehicle. So let's see where it says 125,000.
Yeah, we've missed, but the compactor's fallen off of the transfer station.
I'm sorry?
There was a compactor for the transfer station on last year's. So the intent, because that was one of our field trips, was to the transfer station. There was a capital item on the transfer station to do a compactor to reduce the cost of our trucking of specifically recyclables.
Well, you'll have to, yeah, when he comes, you'll have to, I don't know about, is that not the Packer truck? You'll have to look.
Doesn't, I don't know. That's why
Okay.
it's like,
This
so
came
as we change language, we're trying to like figure out where that was from last year and did it go to someplace else. We'll do that in the individual
Sure.
meeting, but just,
Yeah,
so,
they'll be able to answer those detailed questions that they...
are there
Yeah.
5 categories, planning, infrastructure, transportation? Are they all inclusive? Are we missing any other category that, you've been in the business?
Yeah.
Is this the 5?
These are typically the 5. I haven't run into anything looking at the plan that I don't have a category to stick it in.
Okay.
When it relates to...
So those are the type of expenditures.
Correct.
And the next page is, how are those expenditures going to be paid?
Correct.
Exactly.
So we essentially take the FY27 column of requests and start to develop a funding plan, right, which becomes the capital outlay budget, okay? Because that's the money we're going to be asking town meeting for come A
2026.
for 2027. Okay? So what I've
Carol, I
outlined,
have a question. Here we
go ahead.
Can I get a clarification on this, back to the harbor master here, the annual dredging?
Yep.
yeah.
Is this an annual event? Doesn't seem like it is, but
So-
is it an annual
Now
event?
proposed to be an annual event.
Yeah, right, so we have a lot of potential dredging. Now, some of that is dependent upon how the winter season goes, right? When you have storms, and so they're constantly monitoring the various harbors and inlets and things that come under dredging, and we have a number of areas that we dredge. So one of the things, I look at dredging similar to what we do for road maintenance and Chapter 90 money. As we get money, Link doesn't spend all of his money every year. He may be looking ahead going, I have to dredge, or I have to replace a road, and I know it's gonna cost me $2 million. We may get $600,000 a year. And so that money's allowed to build up. We look at dredging in a very similar manner. Now, the cost of dredging has skyrocketed. from what it had been in the past. Now, that's a bill that we, receive primarily from the county dredge program in terms of how much it costs per cubic yard has gone up significantly. And so over time, we may, through articles, accumulate dredging money, looking ahead at potential larger dredging projects that could cost $1 million or more. So, yes, I think some amount of dredging can happen every year, but some projects you need to look ahead for.
But I kind of remember from my old former life that the Commonwealth has a dredging budget, and I used to have to find 300.
It's getting ready to go to this.
Fleet or whatever.
Yeah, and it's getting ready to go.
That's all gone now?
The last I read is the potential for a lot of that dredging money to actually go away. And it may have already gone away. But John Harker will be able, when he comes before you, he can answer a lot of those detailed questions.
The harbors and inlets, we're talking about Pleasant Bay, maybe? What are the inlets?
Well, no, I mean, where all the harbors are, right? So, I mean, you got Saquatucket Harbor, Allen Harbor, right? So there's a number of places
So the channel and the mooring area.
I say inlets, but yeah, probably more like channels.
But do we have to deal with anything out at Pleasant Bay with our Pleasant Bay access?
I don't believe-
Harbor?
I don't
So-called
believe-
harbor,
Not that I'm aware
Town
of.
Cove.
Yeah, not that I'm aware of. Again, John can answer those detailed questions about the specific areas.
Okay.
I will say that one of the things with dredging that's obviously a little bit unknown is they come up with estimates about, because they have to map the area to see how much they actually need to take out. So they do an estimate saying, okay, we think we need to remove, let's say it's 10,000 cubic yards. They go out and they actually dredge it, but they measure that, and they could come back and say, we actually took out 15,000 cubic yards based on what was actually there. So it's not an exact science, like perhaps I got to replace, half a mile of roadway. You have a pretty good understanding of the width and length and all of that. So there's a lot to it. So, but John's really the one to answer kind of the detailed questions, but that's just my general knowledge and understanding and talking to him about it.
Can I just comment on that, Michelle?
Oh, sorry.
I just remember from the Finance Committee that we were told that the budget went really up a lot because Barnstable County cut back the amount that they were going to pay per cubic yard, so it was much lower before.
Yeah, and he gave me the number, and I mean, I think it's almost tripled, I think, in terms of what it is, the cost per cubic yard.
Go ahead.
And this is kind of an accounting question, but because the dredging is on the capital budget, does that mean that when we see the operating budget results from munis, or what's it called?
Munis.
That we don't get to see it? It's not part of the operating budget?
You don't get to see,
How much we spend in a prior year on dredging?
well, you would, because you'd see, if you look at the article that the dredging money is in, you'll see how much was appropriated and approved, and they'll have a balance. I mean, you can figure out how much they've
It must be a
spent.
different munis report than I've seen, because the operating, if it's called a capital item here,
You're not gonna
it
see
wouldn't
it.
be in the operating budget, it would be in some other.
Correct, and that's why,
Accounts.
yeah, so right now I've had them run me reports about all the open capital articles.
Yeah.
Because the other thing we're looking at is, and CPC kind of runs into this too, is let's say you allocate 500,000
CPC
for a
does a lot,
project.
yes.
It's completed, and you only spent 450.
Right.
That 50,000 will stay in there
Yeah.
Forever, yeah.
infinitum, unless we go back and capture it. So I have everybody looking at articles that have been completed and closed out, no more bills coming in, how much money do you have left?
And do we borrow in anticipation of capital expense, or only after we've incurred the expense, or is it a combination?
No, we have to borrow, we have to essentially have the money before we can go on contract to buy something, because that becomes I don't know, in the federal government, we call it the Anti-Deficiency Act. You can't spend money you don't have.
So that means that for these underspent projects, or projects that maybe never even got off the ground, we may have borrowed funds that we have in our bank account somewhere.
There's probably a mix. I mean, some of it could be free cash, right, that go against a capital project, so it could be free cash, too. You have to kind of look at the source
Yeah.
for each of those, but we're looking at everything to try to capture some of those funds back, knowing that our free cash for next year may be reduced from what we've seen in the past, anywhere from 5.8 million and up.
Because I've never seen a dollar repatriated from a capital project,
It's never come back.
either funded from capital, free cash or debt. I've never seen it, but maybe that's why. 'cause
Yeah,
we
I
haven't
mean-
gone through this process.
Yeah, debt's a little bit different, because those monies are borrowed for a very specific purpose. So you may, even though you have authorization to borrow X amount, you don't necessarily go grab X amount, you only grab it as you need it, kind of thing. You have authorization to spend, so I'd have to go back and look and see, but I'd say the majority of them are probably things that were funded with free cash, since I'd say for the most part, in most communities, the pay-as-you-go capital stuff is a larger proportion than some of the bigger things. But I found plenty of examples out there. I mean, it's potentially in the hundreds of thousands, if not a million or more, that we might potentially be able to capture back from projects that have been closed out and still have funds, left in them and
Okay.
so forth.
Any more questions on the category? Let's go to the funding.
I just have one request.
Yeah,
Tony, when you get that list of those capital projects that have been funded but money's not used, is that something you would be able to share with us?
Oh, yeah, it's all,
It was in the select board package a couple of weeks ago,
Okay, that's
at
great.
the end of the
Thank you.
300-page packet.
the project list is, the project list and what has been initiated and not. I'll give you an example. I mean, I'm not saying this one's coming back, but there was money allocated, I think, back in 2019, so, I mean, you're talking 6 years ago. And it was in hopes of getting a matching grant to pay for the other, so we allocated a amount of free cash with anticipation of a potential grant
we never
But
got the
with
grant.
that,
We never got the-
to complete the request. That hasn't happened. So in my mind,
That's 6 years old.
That's low-hanging fruit, potentially to bring back as, an addition. Now, I have to work through the mechanism with town meeting, because we have to actually take that to town meeting to be able to make these actions happen. But rest assured, we're trying to turn over every rock and leaf we can to capture whatever funding we can, so.
Vacate this page here. Could I just have a little primer here on the, can we just?
Yeah, the funding?
5 minutes?
Yep.
The funding, you want the
I mean, some
funding?
I
Sure.
know, but some I need a little refresher on.
Okay.
Yeah, we're moving to the funding, right? That
Yep.
page?
I mean, yeah, that's how we're gonna pay for this stuff. But I mean,
Absolutely.
could we just do that now?
All right.
Before we
Yeah.
get too far?
Well, that's part of it, so I'm going to go right into that. Yep.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, so the last page, the one pager there, is basically taking all the requests that fell into FY '27 for all the various entities, and then start to build a funding plan on, as you can see, I'll just talk about towns and schools for right now. We had requests for 5.260,500, right? So 5,260,500 for the total requests. Right now, I've allocated a number of those, which are typically funded through free cash, which adds up to a little over $3 million, just under $3.5 million. Now, next to that, you have different types of debt. Now, remember, there's things called capital debt exclusions, there's general debt exclusions, there's enterprise debt, but we also have things like Waterways Fund, the Enterprise Fund retained earnings, which is kind of their version of free cash for an enterprise fund. They call it retained earnings, though. Available funds could be coming from, either general fund balance or some other account. And then you have other funding sources, potentially grants, right? There could be a number of things that I don't necessarily make separate columns for because they're kind of unusual, but it could be grant funding that we've applied for as a potential funding source, and then obviously you have CPC funding. Certain projects, departments put in for CPC funding if it falls within their criteria and the 4 buckets they have to spend money on. So I tried to lay out generally what the various types of funding sources are. I would say, generally speaking, the most ones you're going to see populated are free cash and excluded debt and waterways and enterprise retained earnings. So you can see the bulk of the stuff are in those three categories. I don't have any that are CPC right now. The other potential other funding sources, some of the facility stuff potentially could get funded with green communities money. But a lot of times what happens, you don't find out about that until after the fact. But they're important projects. For instance, roof replacements, things that are envelope related, not sure about the generator, but those are potential we could get green community funding for. But we still need to do them. And so it's more of an offset type of scenario where we have it in free cash. That's probably where we're going to ask for the funding for. But at the same time, as a parallel effort, if we get green community money coming back to us, that will offset the amount, either wholly or partly of what we allocate to that for free cash that could then be, recouped in a later year as not needed. So, but you don't want to put all your eggs in a basket hoping you're going to get green communities funding for a project you need to actually accomplish, or you could end up cutting your nose off to spite yourself.
Tony, there's the assumption that the free cash number that we're using for this exercise will be certified, that amount at least.
The 3.4?
Right, but at least that amount. However,
Yes.
there are other things we use free cash for, right? Stabilization funds, OPEB trust, right? So there's a couple of other categories and other things that can take a bite out of free cash. So that's why it'll come down to figuring out, and do we want to spend all of our free cash?
Okay.
That's always a discussion item about whether, you want to spend every dime of that or not.
In terms of procedure, historically, the requests are not always granted. This
Correct.
assumption is a yes to each request.
Yeah.
So the exercise we're going to go through with the department heads are going to help us vote yes or no to the request.
Right, and I've already done some of the so I've asked all the departments that have stuff on this to go back. Again, looking at the select board's general policy guidance that they issued, combine that with the potential of a lower free cash number available for capital projects, to go back and sharpen their pencils, take a closer look at each one of the projects to determine whether those that are in FY '27 are absolutely critical. Could they be moved to a later fiscal year? And if so, tell us what the impact of that is.
And
Right?
those are the type of questions we'll be asking them.
Correct. And I will too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we think in the same way as it relates to that. So, and again, we have to make those value judgment calls. That's why they tell us what the impact is. Make sure I understand the impact of sliding something to the right. The Outlay Committee understands the impact of that. That gets translated to the select board primarily. Again, they can weigh in as well. And so what it does is somebody's making that decision about, okay, I understand the impact, we'll accept the potential risk of that based on what they tell us. And so it's not like we're leaving a department head, sort of, if we make a decision and it goes south, that we made the best decision that we could, right? Given the justification and rationale for.
Did I understand that the department head will note what they want, how they want to pay for this?
No.
The only ones that I asked for that of, obviously, are the water, wastewater. I need to know, what do you plan on doing enterprise debt for, and what do you plan on using retained earnings for? Because that's a decision they and the wastewater commissioners make. So I asked them to provide that where they want to spend money. The only other one I talked to in detail a little bit is Harbor, because they have a waterways fund, which again is a funding source, so I need to understand how much money is available in the water, we have two of them, how much money is available in there, and how much do you anticipate you'll have by the end of the fiscal year as you collect, mooring and slip fees and all the different types of things, whether they go into the waterways fund or not, again, as a potential funding source. So I work with them on that in determining whether we're going to use waterways fund to help fund some of the harbor initiatives.
And I don't see Cranberry Valley.
Yeah, I was gonna, yeah, golf.
So golf doesn't have anything in '27. That's why they're not on this. They're on the big sheet,
Okay.
and their projects coming up are,
29.
yeah, so he's got bunker renovation in '29 and replacement of the original maintenance building, which is a big project, that's in 2030. So the only projects on the funding sheet are those that are going to be as part of the capital outlay budget for FY '26. So those are the only projects. That's why it's, you know,
On the funding sheet, yeah.
on the funding sheet, correct.
I have a question about the funding. The decision to list something, at least for now, under excluded debt, at $1.7 million total, as opposed to general debt, that requires a two-thirds vote instead of a simple majority, or does all debt require two-thirds? I forget.
I believe it all is the same. Typically under the, like if you do a capital debt exclusion, you don't see towns using that very often. But I believe that comes under the same, similar criteria, but I'd have to double check, because I haven't actually used that one before, but it is an available
Yeah.
borrowing mechanism, is to use a capital debt, but it's called a capital debt exclusion, I believe, or a capital outlay exclusion.
Right, right.
So I can come back at another meeting with a little more detail about the mechanisms for that, and typically they're shorter term. You know, when you borrow general debt, you can go out, you know, we go out 20 years, you know, sometimes longer. Typically for capital projects, a lot of it will be, but S&P does look at that. So for instance, we just did the borrowing today for a little over 10 million. Now, there were 2 ambulances in that. There was a fire engine, a pumper in that. Typically for things, unless you have what they call a statement of useful life, those are limited to 5 years.
That was excluded debt, right?
Yeah.
Those were excluded. The only thing in that borrowing that was not excluded, that was the irrigation project for Cranberry Valley. All the other stuff was excluded.
But you use that when you're afraid you're going to run up against the Proposition 2.5
Right.
limit in terms of what you can levy in tax, right?
So the irrigation project was not excluded, that's a
Right.
general.
It's a separate fund, a separate
Correct.
source, too.
Yep.
Do you think that we're stuck with relying on excluded debt for next year because of the Proposition 2.5?
I think we'll know better once we get the sources and uses done and figure out what our, because typically we're going to, go up 2.5%, and then we have to estimate new growth, right? And then see what is the, what is our bottom line and how close are we to the levy limit?
Because I know with the 26 operating budget.
It was close.
We were within 100,000 or something.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of towns are.
Yeah.
Of course, I would tell you about one, Hopkinton actually did an underride one year, which is almost unheard of, but.
Okay, Paul?
One more question. You're trying to get my hands around all of this, but part of the charter speaks to, relative to the capital outlay plan or the capital improvement plan, the balancing of the years in terms of expenditures. I'm kind of curious when I look down here at the total of the plan and the kind of bouncing up and down. Is there a sense that the debt cost, or I don't know that I see those. Maybe they're here, but I don't know, for example, how much the debt that the town is indebted to, let's say, is evidenced in this information. So to know whether, in fact, it would be better to put one thing in 29 rather than 28, because it helps to make the bottom line. And I think there are 2 bottom lines, I guess, both the cost and how we're paying for it. So are we looking at both of those categories when we try to spread these projects out over 5 years? And if we are, is that evident on this matrix here?
No, you're not gonna see it on this, but we are looking at that in terms of trying to create I'll say a graphical way, because I think that's where it's really, most people can understand, where we are in terms of our debt schedule and the total amount of debt we have. And then looking at graphically to see, as different borrowings drop off, right, they're paid off, how is that debt line changing, right, over time, so that we have a better idea of spreading out various borrowings, capital perhaps being one of them, but we borrow for other things too, obviously sewer being probably the largest of
But
those.
what entity here knows that? Is the finance department, or is it you, or is?
Well, I think
mean,
it's-
the department heads hopefully don't
We've,
know.
well, that's Martha's particular pet peeve for the last X number of years. So this would be the first time we start to get a visualization of how much debt
Yeah.
in total the town is in.
And I think that's the $64 question.
That is, because it's
Right.
like school debt and
Right.
water rate debt and whatever else. So we're on that path towards it, is that
But
correct?
let me re-ask the question then. Is there somebody that is aware of that detail?
You're looking at them.
That's it, okay.
No, I'm not, this is something, so I meet with the finance team on a weekly basis, right? So building out the new format for sources and uses, building out I'll say a clearer presentation of the debt schedule, right? All of that. Now, remember, this is stuff that didn't exist, so I
All
ask for
new,
everybody's patience, because it takes time to build, because it didn't exist, right?
But should I assume that somehow that's plugged into the divvying out of these costs over 5 years?
So what I would say as it relates to capital is, that shouldn't be the primary focus, right? The capital, when folks are putting in their capital, it should be based on need, right?
Not debt.
Because if we start pushing stuff off, trying to balance a number at the bottom,
Something will
the next
fall
thing you
in.
know, the transfer station is only open 5 days a week because they don't have the equipment, because we pushed off.
No, but a
So-
mild sensitivity would be helpful, right? I mean, you should.
So it gets built in, and that's where we have discussions about, okay, tell me about, let's say if you found a year that had a much larger number in it
Yeah, like
for
this,
debt, okay?
17 million or whatever it's coming down.
But remember, that number at the bottom, we haven't built fund, you can't, that's not all debt, right? Because a lot of that stuff's gonna get paid for with free cash. So, remember,
this-
we're only building the budget, right? The capital outlay budget is for the next year, right? Right, that's how it's written. We build a 5-year plan. The first year of the plan becomes the capital budget for the next year. Ideally, at some point, and it won't happen when Tony's here, but this is where we should be going, is at least putting some planning numbers in those out years for funding. Again, just to get a little better visibility in terms of things that we may decide to borrow from, and how does that match up with the projected debt schedule, right, and where there are periods of opportunity to do borrowing. Now, if we find that there's a particular year, and maybe it's driven by this, maybe it's driven by sewer, to say, we really should try to push some of this off for a year or two where we see a debt, so that the taxpayer doesn't see a very large spike and then a big decrease, because you kind of put them on. We're trying to see how to smooth that out a little bit.
I think the
So-
first challenge is to see it in the beginning, right? So that's the process that you're trying to build, so that we can start seeing the debt.
I mean, I need
Applaud
that,
him
right?
for all of this. This
Right.
is wonderful. But
Right.
This should be,
So-
this should be built into, right, sort of our framework for our financial enterprise, right?
It gives you the health of the town, is really what it's.
Correct. So, but you're not going to necessarily see it on this, but it'll be a piece of information to inform, make better informed decisions, and not just look at a number and say, oh gee, we need to push some stuff to the right, because again, it's based on need.
Right.
But we talk about it, what's the impact if we move a particular project or a group of projects or whatever, what's the impact of that, to make sure that the decision makers understand the impact of, we just didn't want to say, oh, I can't fit all this, I'm just going to move that, and no
No,
other
that's-
input
that's-
happens, and the bottom line number looks okay, but then we end up putting ourselves in a critical situation because a major, building or whatever went down, because we just arbitrarily moved something because of a number.
Well, all of that's an improvement in transparency and the ability to make better decisions, which I think is the objective, correct? So in terms of this process, anything else you want to update us with today? Or should we spend our time saying who's coming in next and kind of get the ball
So-
rolling?
Yes. So just a question on that. So between now and December 10th, right, which was what Martha and I went over.
Right.
Are you all meeting every single week between now and then, or how do you?
We have been known to do every Wednesday until we're
I thought
done.
we agreed.
But it started also to accommodate all of the managers who are doing this as well, right? Instead of squeezing them into a schedule, we're trying to have as much time as possible for people to come in and sit down that makes sense.
So
We're
what I
taking
would-
people away from their jobs to do this.
So what I would, okay, so I guess my suggestion and ask, and would be helpful to me, and I think we have time, we have time, because I have some changes I need to make. I need to get the school information in here, would be that we would start department head meetings the first Wednesday in November. So not next Wednesday, but the Wednesday after. I mean, the committee can certainly still meet next week.
If we don't have to meet, we don't have to meet. So that's now we're going into.
I leave that up to, you all. but-
Operationally, if we don't have to, we've had plenty of meetings during this time.
I think, Mayor,
Yes, yes, sir.
Tony, what you have to figure out is, how many department heads do you need to get in to talk to us? If it's 9, if it's 10, if it's 2,
And then we
and
divide
even
it.
the smallest, I've noticed the library, even if it's not expenses, capital dollars in the budget year, I don't want to insult the people that are working, like the library that has something in 28 and 20, 40,000 and what, they should come in and explain. We don't have,
Yeah,
everybody's equal.
my guess is that we're going to be able to group a bunch of them together, and then separately bring in Public Works, Facilities, Harbor, and Wastewater.
Yeah,
and schools.
we normally bring bless you, fire and police together.
Yes.
They're small, and like I said, they don't have a lot.
Right,
It's typical stuff you've seen.
We'd like to
Big
get it
tickets.
done as quickly as possible, so we can talk about it, vote on it, or our opinions, I don't want to say vote, but our opinions on it. And if they have to come back, they do. And also, to your point, if we need to visit something that
We have to
they-
get that scheduled.
We
yeah.
have to get that scheduled.
Right.
So that's the way it's run in the past.
So let's go, so per your look at this, you want us to, there's no one who'll be ready on the 29th of October. Is that
Tony may
correct?
not be ready. I just want to make sure the next time I can
That's
make the
fine.
changes. Yeah.
So
I mean,
then, November 5th would be the next meeting.
November 5th.
Okay, so should we agree on November 5th, 12th, and 19th? Because the next one is Thanksgiving. So November 5th, 12th, 19th,
For presentations or
right.
department visits.
What's happening on the 29th? Anybody coming in? We mean-
It may not be ready.
He's not going to be ready.
I'm
so-
not ready, I'm not gonna be
Yeah, we're
here.
not even worried about you.
I'll be going,
I know, you'll be somewhere else.
I have to go to
Bulgaria.
Halloween events.
Bulgaria, I know.
So the 29th, we're not going to have a meeting. We're scheduling a meeting on 11/5, 11/12, 11/19. Then it would look like, and we should maybe schedule them so
I have them
that
built out, although, so we'd have 12/3 and 12/10,
12/3 and 12/10.
and we can add the 17th if we need it. Hopefully we
1,
don't.
2, 3, 4, 5. Do you want to put it down just in case? Because we
I
have
mean,
to
you,
do
it's,
public
yeah,
comments.
I have every Wednesday, like from now to infinity with you guys,
Okay, just-
at
Okay.
least through December. But again, our goal is to, what I talked to Martha about, is to be done by the 10th.
So let's done by the 10th. So you can start scheduling. We will not have a meeting on the 29th of October.
Perfetto.
There we go, just for you, Paul.
Not
Um,
all.
And then we will have a meeting on the 5th, and then you'll let us know who that is, with the caveat, if anything you see on this, you want to go visit, anything that pops out on these things as projects, we've been to DPW, we've been to the harbor,
We don't want to confuse this with the facts, right?
trying to do the facts. It has been, and Rich had started under you, that when the members go see someplace, you can better talk to what the future expenditure is going to be about.
Well, yeah, like Harbor was very good at explaining dollars.
The harbor was very good.
DPW is the same thing.
Yep, and we saw the building and went through that. Is there anything else that comes up?
How about the safety guy? Did we do that meeting? I missed that if we did.
Which one?
We were going up to fire and police at one point.
We haven't done fire or police.
Never did that.
Yes, we do. We do it every year. We do it every year.
On site?
I've never.
No, on
That's what he's
site.
asking for.
You talk about on site? No, we're not allowed.
I wasn't there, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, all set on the schedule, that's our last subject for us today? Yes?
Who's the seventh person? We've got 6 of us here.
Martha. Martha.
That's 6? So we have-
Michelle? Oh, we're at 6, yeah, who are
I'm
they?
missing someone.
Somebody, did someone drop off our committee?
Not that I'm aware of. Who are my people? Raise your hand.
We've got 4 here.
I have 2
Michelle,
of them. Who's
5.
the other one?
We've got a
I'm
Martha,
planning.
6.
Select board member that is.
Oh, select board member.
Chairman, and the second.
Do we have seven?
Select, there's no second,
So we have
nobody
a-
here from the select board when Martha's not here.
Who is that? Is it Don Howe?
I don't think
Oh.
they ever appointed anyone.
No, it's Peter. He's on the website. It's Peter.
Wyatt check, Frank
Peter
Wyatt
who?
check.
Peter who?
Peter who, Michelle?
Karski.
Oh, Peter
No,
Carr?
he's a representative.
Yeah, he's a
Oh,
liaison.
so I'm on the website. It says Rich, Paul, Martha, Michelle, Ann, and Scott.
That's 6.
So we
we're
are
one
short
down.
one.
Yes.
We are short one
We're
down.
one down.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
How do we fix that?
How do you,
Selectmen have to
Pick someone.
interview somebody
I
and
wonder if we have volunteers.
I'd
you
nominate
can't get
Don
the,
Hall.
Well, he can't be on the committee.
no. I mean, we're having difficulty getting department heads. Forget about getting a representative here.
okay, so we are on, under new business, moving us forward. C, discussion and decisions regarding the plan. We've done that. We've set our schedule. Any other open business, gentlemen? And Michelle? And Tony?
No, thank you.
We're good. All right, thank you for your time. Moving the issue on the charter to the beginning of the next meeting on the 5th or not?
You can pencil it in. And Martha,
Ask Martha. yeah.
That'll be Martha. Okay.
don't ask.
I'm not asking Paul.
No, please.
Any other business before the committee
We
today?
have dinner at 6 o'clock. Don't ask him to answer that question.
We're talking 11 o'clock at these meetings, right?
Yes.
Yes.
And that was a,
11 o'clock's the best time for you?
Sure,
I'm just saying, could it be earlier?
it can't be, I'm teaching, so I cannot be here.
it's fine.
Okay.
Very good.
All right, any other business before the committee? Should we adjourn? Do we need a motion to adjourn?
Yes, we do. I so move.
Second the motion.
The 3rd.
All right, we have to do a roll call because we have one person on the thing. So, Michelle?
Aye. Aye, yes.
Aye.
Aye.
And I, done.
Where's they